Hey everybody, welcome to the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast, episode 39. I am Brett, aka Enigma 9011, and today I am joined by Brent, aka Uber Brent over there.
Hello.
Fantastic Twitch streamer. You guys should all go check him out
Daw.
if you don't already. Let's see, I met Brent at TwitchCon this year, kind of out of the blue at a random Snowbike Mike / kind of funny gathering. I don't know what you want to call it, Nerf gun extravaganza.
Yeah, it was kind of a last minute thrown together like, hey, there's people here that are kind of funny best friends and let's just all get together. And Snowbike Mike put up the kind of funny symbol up in the clouds, and we all naturally followed it to its source, and the rest is history. We had some laughs. I dove in the Nerf gun arena and tore my Twitch bag. It was worth it though. It was a ton of fun. I had a blast. These glasses came from that, actually, oddly enough.
Yeah, I had no idea that was the thing.
Yeah, these are
like a while after.
Ones, yeah.
All right, nice. Well, who wouldn't have thought that TwitchCon would have gave you such a memorable icon? I guess I don't know. Every time I see it, that's just there.
Well, I've always like my symbol or my logo or whatever has always been the orange glasses. Like ever since 2000, I want to say 13, I think is when this idea came around. And you know, I always wanted to get orange glasses to go with it, but I could just never find a pair that I liked. You know, the closest ones I had were like these really wireframe see-through orange ones, which are good, but they're not the big orange ones because I wear big glasses. And so when we went to that event and they were handing out the safety glasses, they were bright yellow. I think you'll remember.
Yeah.
And the lady that was handing them out, I go, oh my God, these are perfect. I wish you had orange ones because that's literally my logo. And I pulled out like my business card and I'm like, see, look, like this. And she goes, wait here a second. And she disappears for like, 5 minutes and comes back and she's like, every day we had a different color and orange ones was Friday. Granted, I think the day that we were there was Sunday, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. So she goes, here, you can just have these because otherwise we're going to throw them out. I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect. I like dropped to my knees and thanked her. I was like, this is the best thing.
Nice. Wow. All right. Should have just gotten the pixel shades and had actual lenses put in. Another kind of funny best friends got the pixel shades thing going on, so I don't know, cross marketing or whatever you want to call it. But it's been a blast getting to know Brent and checking out his stream. So I'm glad he's on the podcast and hanging out with us today. If you guys don't know what the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast is, it's a conversational podcast. We each bring a topic to the table and we talk about it for your amusement. New guests will also go through a special topic 3, the lightning round, which we'll get to later. Ooh. But you can check out the podcast live every first and third Saturday of the month at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And get in the chat like a lot of you guys are right now and join in on the conversation. If you can't catch it live, that's okay. You can catch it over on youtube.com. Search Enigma 911 where the videos are broken out topic by topic, but also put as one big video on Friday, so you can check it out there. Lastly, if you have any topics for us, you can always join us in Discord and put it in the Discord tab specifically for topics there, or just put it in the comment section down below, and maybe we'll get to it. And I said last thing, but not last thing. Also, sponsoring the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast is the merch store. You can check that out and get all of your Enigma 9011 swag over there, just like this t-shirt someone happens to be wearing. But you can rep the merch and get that and have some fun with it. But yeah, check it out.
I was going to say, that looks like an awfully fancy shirt. And I was going to ask where I could get one, if I was interested in wearing an Enigma 9011 shirt. So I'm glad you were able to cover that.
Yep, there you go. All right, Brent. So we talked about topics. We got some interesting ones today. We're going to start with mine. And I'm ready to dive into this 20, 30, 40, 50, 100-foot hole, whatever this is, head first. So I've heard on your stream you talk about anime, or as I like to call it, anime. And I want to know, as a very casual fan myself in anime, I don't know a lot of the ins and outs, the who, what's, whatever it is.
Okay.
I want to know your history with anime, what you're watching currently, and what would be your recommendations for someone maybe trying to get into it, I guess.
Sure.
So let's start with Uber Brent's history, anime 101, life story. I don't know.
Yeah. So anime for me is something I really got into I was still pretty young. I discovered anime probably around 6th grade. I want to say I was still in grade school at the time, and I stumbled across, this was on the USA Network in the morning, a little show that some of you may have heard before. It's called Sailor Moon. I really took to it pretty quickly because I've always been a fan of cartoons and watching cartoons and things like that. What really separated Sailor Moon from all of the other shows that I would watch, because at the time I was watching things like Doug and Rugrats and Cow and Chicken and Dexter's Laboratory. Like there were all these shows that were, I mean, they were cartoons. They were made for kids. They were jokey, and they were full of, stories were self-contained. There was no continuity between anything. So I happened to catch like the very first episode of Sailor Moon, and of course Lady in Wonderland. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Sailor Moon is the best. Still to this day, I'll fight anybody over that. So I watched this show, and it struck me right away because it was cartoon, it was animated, and I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. And what struck me right out of the gate is it told like a really good story. It wasn't just slapstick. Like there was emotion. There was like people were interacting and having human reactions to things that were happening. Granted, there were still jokes, that sort of thing still existed, but it really did a lot with being like a more mature show, but while still being a cartoon. And when I was younger, I'm like, man, that's crazy. So, I watched that first episode. I'm like, this is really neat. I want to watch more of this. So, next day, come back, same time, episode 2 is going on. And I was shocked when I found out that the next episode directly followed the first episode. And when I say that, I mean like the plot carried over, like the events from the first episode were happening in the second episode. And I'm thinking to myself, like, this is something different. Like, this is giving me the same, because even a lot of adult shows, and when I say adult shows, I mean things like Seinfeld and sitcoms back in the early 80s and 90s, there wasn't much of like an ongoing story arc or continuity between episodes. So the fact that I was getting this like piecemeal story fed to me, where there was awesome action, there was like these really crazy moments of transformation, and just like it really kind of like inspired me. I'm like, man, this is really great how it's not just it's not just 15 to 20 minutes of jokes and then I go about my day. It felt like at the end of the episode, I felt something, and it changed kind of the way that I viewed shows in general. So that was kind of like my first little taste of anime was with Sailor Moon, and I watched it that whole summer. Like every morning, I would wake up as early as I could to make sure I was there to see the next exploit of Sailor Moon, and then she would meet Sailor Mercury and Sailor Mars and Sailor Jupiter, and like the cast continued to grow, and it really sucked me into the plot, like right down to the end of the first arc with Queen Beryl. She was the main antagonist in arc 1. Like that episode was outright stunning. Like they had to combine their powers, and it's old trope stuff now at this point. It's not anything we haven't heard of, but just at the time, like having that emotional high point where everything came together and they all had to dig deep and get past their insecurities and defeat evil kind of thing. So that was my introduction to anime. From there, it kind of spiraled into Saturday morning on Sci-Fi, I want to say.
Okay.
They would put up just a random anime movie. And it was like a 2-hour, 2.5-hour, like standalone anime movie that they would show. And I taped those forever. But one that really stuck out to me was Tenchi Muyo, which Tenchi Muyo is a kind of a harem anime. You know, that's something I realize now, but at the time, of course, I didn't. But they had a really good one where it was Tenchi Muyo. It's called Tenchi Muyo in Love. And he goes back in time to make sure his mom, it's Back to the Future, essentially. He makes sure that his mom and dad get together so he doesn't disappear. And there's also an intergalactic criminal who's trying to alter the past. So, you know, that whole thing happens too. But, you know, that is another show that really left an impression with young Brent. And then from there, you know, it kind of spiraled off into Dragon Ball Z. That's when Toonami started getting big, and you could see Dragon Ball, and you know they had like even Adult Swim started getting into it, where you could see Cowboy Bebop and Trigun, and boy, I know I'm missing a couple. Outlaw Star, Big O. Like these are all just seminal building blocks for kind of my anime obsession. But yeah, that's kind of where the whole thing started, and it just kind of snowballed until here I am today, where I watch a lot of anime.
Well, I appreciate the Tenchi Muyo call out, because I remember as a kid, I think it was around that same block that you just mentioned with Dragon Ball Z, because I also picked up on that. But I remember watching that, and I must have caught it early, or I don't know. But yeah, it was like he just learned about, I don't remember characters' names, but the first girl that like crashed down there. And then, yeah, I just remember like all these new girls popping up. And as a kid, I was like, wow, she's pretty. This guy's like, what the? And then there's the shit goes to fucking the way it does.
I had a very deep yearning in my heart as a child for Ryoko. She was just the best. She was strong. She beat up all the enemies. She didn't take shit from nobody. Oh man, Ryoko was she was my girl.
So yeah, I appreciate that. I've been meaning to go back and watch it and maybe finally understand, or at least pick up on what was going on, because yeah, I don't remember. I just remember details of this was that and that, whatever. But yeah, for me, Dragon Ball Z was the big one. Like I watched Sailor Moon maybe once in a blue moon, and then I don't know. I didn't really watch any Adult Swim stuff, but yeah, Dragon Ball Z was the one I remember watching. I remember the big events. I don't remember like anything specific until like later on when I went back and finally got the seasons and was watching through. I was like, wow, there's a lot of episodes. We're just in a spaceship. Yeah. All right. Is he going to be there? Nope. We'll find out in 5 episodes. All righty.
That was one of the you had to really have a passion for Dragon Ball Z when you were watching Dragon Ball Z live, because you only got one new episode, I think, a week. It was either one a week, or they would run. No, you know what they would do is every day they would run a new episode, but they would catch up too quick, so then they would start over. That's what they would do. So you would watch like 5 episodes or 6 episodes, and you'd be like, man, this is getting really good. You know, they're about to actually fight something. or the one that got me in junior high was, it was literally 1 to 2 episodes before Goku first turned Super Saiyan, which is that it's a thing that like I knew it existed for a couple years at this point. Like I was ready to see Goku turn Super Saiyan. I was so excited for it, and it was the arc, it was the moment. You know, for those of you who watched it, Krillin got blew up. Goku was very upset about it, and something is about to happen. Something will happen in 5 episodes. Yeah, that's exactly it, lady. So they built it up where it's like, here is Goku. He's just about to push past his limit. Like you can see the gold start to swirl up a little bit, and you're like, he's about to go Super Saiyan. I wanted this forever. And then they'd be like, well, we're out of new episodes, so Raditz is back, and we're gonna deal with Raditz again. I'm like, no, I will not wait another 3 months to get back to this point where I can watch Goku turn Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
Oh, that was painful as a child. It really was.
But yeah, I think that was my main, well, not main introduction to it, because obviously Pokemon and Digimon and those things. But I think those were like the, not outliers, but
I
far from the norm, I guess. Tenchi Muyo would be my
Tenchi Muyo is like definitely a deep cut, and something like Pokemon, even if you're not an anime fan, is as a kid you probably watched, because Pokemon was just everything at that time.
Oh yeah.
Pokemon hit me when I was in junior high. I want to say I was in 7th grade when I got Red.
Okay.
And the rest is history from there. I've been playing it ever since. I am well past my junior high days at this point, still playing Pokemon. But yeah, no, that was definitely. I got into those bigger shows like your Dragon Balls, your Sailor Moons, your Pokemons, things like that. But I even would go to, and again, dating myself big time here, I would go to Blockbuster, where they had a very fledgling anime section. And it was funny because they never had like full series of something. So you would just have like one VHS that had 3 episodes of Ranma 1/2, which again, like real kind of deep cut weird anime Ranma 1/2, where if the main character gets doused in hot water, he turns into a boy, and if he gets doused in cold water, he turns into a girl.
Okay, I've heard about that.
very, very strange anime, but I would get to the point where I would rent that one VHS where it's like 3 episodes in the middle of whatever arc, just because I'm like, I still don't fully grasp what this is or how it works, but I just love it. It's so good, and it's something that never really fell off. I continue to watch anime, to this day, which I'm sure we'll get to it pretty soon here.
Yeah. Let's see. Lady likes Ranma as well, and then Jeff Reg still has the first Ranma movie.
Oh, Jeff Reg, can we please watch that together?
All right. So as you alluded to, you still love anime and you're still into it very much. What are you watching currently?
So
on the anime spectrum.
You know what? I'm gonna cheat just a little bit because I'm legitimately watching probably 10 to 15 shows right now.
Jeez. Okay.
So like this is one thing that this is a really weird way that anime has turned me around. So it used to be 100 years ago where you would watch shows once per week when it would come out.
Yeah.
And that was fine, whatever the case may be. Well, then Netflix comes out and it's like, oh, binge. We're just going to drop a whole season on you and you're going to watch it and it's great, which is totally fine. What has kind of been what I've been getting into lately is getting back into watching current season anime where you only get one new episode every week.
Okay.
So like that anticipation for new episodes and stuff like really actually is meaningful, a lot more than I gave it credit for.
Yeah, I get that. I've been doing the same thing with Game of Thrones. I had little interest with it prior. Like I was like, oh, that's cool, but I'm not really gonna check it out. And then my friend Kevin and then Lady has also kind of been on my butt to finally watch it. So the last few times we've hung out, it's been like binge watching that. So like maybe last week I finally finished season 7, so now I'm going into this final season with the week. I'm like, okay, cool. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I understand. It's definitely a different, I guess, feeling and just how overall how things are. But
there's a very real like sense of zeitgeist and talking about like, okay, so like literally, I have viewing parties for going to Game of Thrones here real quick. I have viewing parties with one of my buddies where we I go to his house. We usually get like turkey legs or like we make it an event. I go buy mead, which is delicious, by the way. If you've never had mead, it's just wine, but it's made with honey and it's so good.
All right.
But yeah, Like we kind of go all out on it, and we just sit down. Nobody has their phone out. Nobody talks. It's just absorb what happens, and then we just sit and talk about it. But like having that week to week sort of mentality and feel, it gets people talking about, all of the different things that happen and what they think is going to happen. There's something kind of magical about, that's what Lost did so long ago. Everybody wanted to talk about like, oh my God, what did this mean? And what did that mean? And having that kind of week to week mentality or feel kind of makes it feel special again.
Yeah, thinking about it, it's kind of almost like a movie mentality. Like when you step out of the movie theater, like there's that buzz between you and whoever you saw it with. It's the same idea, just with a TV show. I never thought about it that way. But obviously it's more open because something's definitively happening next week.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
What's going on. Yeah, so just expands on those conversations you're already having, I guess, post cinema viewing or whatever.
So for shows I'm watching right now, I had to Crunchyroll because there's just no way I was going to remember everything off the top of my head.
Okay.
So I'm watching Mob Psycho 100 Part 2, which is, do you want descriptions of all of these? Because I'm more than willing to.
If you want.
I'll give short little blurbs on each of them.
Okay.
This is about a boy named Mob who has ESP powers, and he's like a super powerful psychic, but he's very socially awkward. And he has to suppress his social behaviors because if his emotions overtake him, he gets way too powerful and starts messing stuff up. Very good show. Very strange show, but I like it. I'm watching The Rising of the Shield Hero, which is, there's this whole brand of anime called isekais, which isekai is essentially boy from, or girl, human being from modern day Japan gets transported magically somehow into a fantasy based world. Usually there's like some sort of video game mechanic to it. But that's kind of the, Sword Art Online kind of started the whole isekai thing. But Rising of the Shield Hero, it's just a really competent one of those. So I guess I don't want to, I won't go too much into that one. I'm watching The Promised Neverland, which is so good. So good. Like I don't even want to describe it. Every one of my friends who watches anime, I've suggested this show to them and they go, well, what is it about? And I go, I can't tell you. Because if I tell you, it's going to ruin the first episode. And that first episode, if you go into it blind, will hook you so hard. And like I went into it blind, and the intro to the show is just a banger. It's so good, and you just got to watch it.
Okay.
I am watching Black Clover, which is shonen trash. I've decided that I'm shonen trash, and I will watch anything that's shonen is just like your Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, Bleach, One Piece. You can kind of go down the list. It's like main character has to continually get stronger to overcome all of the obstacles that is before them. It's every major anime, and it's called shonen, and it's trash, and I'm a trash boy for loving it, and I'll never stop. I'm watching a show called Boogie Pop and Others. Boogie Pop is a remake of an old show called Boogie Pop Phantom, and it's kind of a really bizarre like horror type anime, but they do interesting things with how they tell the story. Like Boogie Pop's first episode shows you the very beginning of the story and the very end of it. And you watch that first episode, you go, what? And you just, as you watch more episodes, it kind of fills in a lot of those gaps, and you're like, oh, okay, then this makes sense. And then because I have this knowledge, then I know this is going to happen, and you kind of piece it all together. It's pretty cool. Let's see here. What else am I watching? I am watching Kaguya-sama, Love is War, which is a show about the president of a high school, not the president, but the student council president and the assistant student council president, and they both like each other, but if they're the first one to admit it to the other, then they lose the power in the relationship. So they just sit there and like plot on each other on how they're going to get the other one to trip up and admit that they like the other one. It's really goofy, but it's cute. You're there's a through line about cute anime. I just like it. I am watching Run Like the Wind, or I'm sorry, Run with the Wind, which is a show that's just about running. It's like, you know, it's a group of 10 boys that are that want to try and run this really difficult marathon, and one of the boys is new to the group, and he's a really good runner, and the other ones aren't runners at all, and they all kind of get like dragged into doing it, but then they grow to love it, and you know, they help each other out and do their best. It's pretty good. It's a sports anime. Yeah. It's a sports anime. Which sports anime? I'm going to tell you this right now. Sports anime just knows what it's doing. I watched a show over this last week. I was pretty sick, so I spent 3 days in bed watching anime. And I watched a show called Yuri on Ice.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's a show that's specifically about ice skating. I don't like ice skating. I've never watched ice skating. I don't have any like interest in ice skating. But by the end of it, I knew his whole routine. Like when the song Yuri on Ice would start, my eyes would tear up, and I would sit there and be like, "Oh my God, please don't fall when you do your double axel. Oh man, here comes the 3 jump combination. He only gets this like sometimes. He really needs to nail it." Like, just it has a way of like just really getting you invested in what's going on, and it's mind blowing. It's such a cool thing. I think those are it.
Okay.
I'm sure I'm missing something somewhere, but yeah, no, it's like I say, I'm missing JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Okay, heard of that one.
Yeah, JoJo's season 5 is going on right now, and JoJo's is fantastic. It's so super good. It's kind of shonen-y, but it's a little bit smarter about how it does some of those shonen tropes, and it's really smart about how it shows powers. Like, it's not like so many shows are just like, I'm so strong, I can punch the hardest. But like this show will have some guy whose power is that he has a gun and he shoots bullets, and the bullets are his actual power, and he can shoot 3 bullets and they can like kick the bullets amongst themselves to make it like ricochet in a way that it hits a dude. So just interesting ways that all the powers kind of interplay with one another. It's a pretty special show.
Okay. All right. So out of that list, I only recognized 2. Not that I knew anything about them, but just in name, I recognized them.
Yeah.
So there's one I know that's like, it seems like it's exploded as of recently. Then I hear its name a lot, and I don't know your opinion on it. It's My Hero Academia. I think I'm saying that right.
Yes, you are.
Okay. What's feelings on that one?
My Hero Academia is also a shonen anime, but it does it a little bit differently in that it's superheroes, like almost American style superheroes. It's incredibly well told. One of the things that it does really well is it keeps its pace moving. So like, unlike your Dragon Ball or your Naruto or your One Piece that just goes on and on forever and you never see the end of it, My Hero Academia gets to the point relatively quick. There's very few episodes that don't have some kind of meaning to it. It's a really great show. The main character is kind of that underdog that you just want to vote. He just wants to do his best, and he just wants to help people, and he is born without a quirk, which quirks in that world are like superpowers, but he still does his best anyway. And then the number one hero all time, All Might, sees him and is like, "You remind me of a young me, so I'm gonna bestow my quirk onto you," which is this is very early stuff, and I'm gonna give you a shot at being the next me, essentially. and then it's him going to like a high school for superheroes.
Huh.
It's really good. It's really, really good. The emotional impact on some of those episodes like really hits you. It really does. You know, the story is told in such a way that the stakes always feel very real and relevant.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't mention it because it's not currently airing, so it's not something I'm actively watching. But I've watched through that series probably 4 times now.
Okay. And then I got a follow-up. It's not a series. Pretty sure it's anime. It's anime.
Okay.
But how do you feel about Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, and I haven't seen it, but House of the Moving...
Howl's Moving Castle?
Thank you. Yep. The one.
Yeah. Those are Studio Ghibli movies, so movies that were made by Hayao Miyazaki. The closest equivalent when anybody asks me about those movies is those are Disney movies to Japan. Like, you know, we have all of our old standbys, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, these old, I don't want to say old, they're older, but they're Disney movies that are just so special and so seminal. That is what these Miyazaki films are to Japan. They're told so incredibly well. There's, like you said, Spirited Away is probably, it's the most well known for sure. But it's also probably one of the best ones, I would say. But I mean, that comes down to a matter of opinion. I would also field an argument for Princess Mononoke. That's another Miyazaki film. That was the first one that I ever saw of his, and just the animation is wonderful. The story is wonderful. They've got. Did you ever play? What's it called? Ni no Kuni. No. Okay.
Heard about it, but no, I haven't played it.
Okay. Ni no Kuni. Oh, Jeff Reg points out Ponyo, which is another just wonderful. Like that is a retelling of the Little Mermaid, but like the Hans Christian Andersen Little Mermaid.
Okay.
And it's aimed a little bit more towards kids. Like Miyazaki said, he made it for like his 5-year-old niece or something at the time. Ponyo is adorable. I love that movie. That I watched that with my daughter all the time. But yeah, no, all of those movies are really special. You know, he's got such a long list of them. There's Porco Rosso, you said Totoro, Kiki's Delivery Service, Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind. I mean, there's Lapida, Castle in the Sky. There's so many. That's a series that I actually got my mom interested in. Like, she's not an anime fan, but she loves Disney movies. So I sat her down to watch Princess Mononoke, which is a little more violent than the other ones, but she absolutely fell in love with it. And then from there, she liked Princess Mononoke so much that I went and somehow acquired, I'm not going to say how, an advanced copy of Spirited Away in Japanese that was subtitled.
Okay.
And I had her sit down and watch a subtitled version of Spirited Away, which is not something that she would normally do, but she just loved that movie. You know, that's something that anybody can like.
Yeah, for sure. I've been able to watch Spirited Away and Totoro out of, I mean, the 3 I mentioned. Eventually, Moving Castle, I assume, will be on the list.
Sure.
But yeah, Spirited Away, like, I was going in, I was like, all right, this will be fun. But like, yeah, I liked it way more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
And it was a fun story, and characters were memorable. I love this little spirit circle, spells broken thing that just stuck with me.
Yep.
And then Totoro was just a fun time. Like, I don't know. After watching Spirit Away, I was like, oh, there's going to be this story. And I was like, all right, we just had a fun time with a bunny. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But, all right.
Totoro definitely is a little bit different. I'm going to put the call out here for Lady. You need to educate. You need to make him watch like Princess Mononoke and all of these other great shows because they are so, so good.
Put it on the list.
Princess Mononoke. That one, you'll get that one.
We got on a cat bus. It was great. That was true.
Oh, I'm honest. She says, okay, we got it figured out.
Okay, so we talked about your history. We talked about what you're watching currently, the plethora. What would you recommend for maybe someone trying to get into anime, I guess?
I think we touched on it a little bit. For somebody who wants to very first get into anime, you know, the recommendation is something like a Miyazaki film. Any of those are great. You know, people that are generally not anime fans can watch a Miyazaki film and really fall in love with it because it's just a good animated film. You know, it borrows things from Japanese culture, but it doesn't rely on it to the point where it can feel alienating to some new people.
Yeah.
You know, if you ever wanted to get into like anime shows, that's even kind of a weird one because in all honesty, there's really an anime for everybody. You know, I've come to learn that I'll watch an anime about you know, well, I won't get into it, but there's like a show, there's shows that, like, you know, I got into a show lately called like Yuri on Ice. You know, that's, again, no interest in ice skating, but it was just recommended so highly to me. I'm like, oh, I gotta check it out. And they just do such a good job of selling the characters to you and the character's struggle and how he overcomes it. And it does it in a way that I just don't think you could do. You know, using animation allows you to get creative with some things, and when it's done well, it's done so well. So you know, I always tell people, whatever it is you think that you would have an enjoyment from watching, there's an anime for it. You know, you can, if you want to watch a show about ice skating, it exists. If you want to watch a show about running, it exists. If you want to watch a show about cooking, it exists. If you want to watch a show about this boy that is in love with his teacher, but then he sleeps with his classmate, and then his dad suddenly marries those two girls' mom, and now they're siblings. Like, that's a description of domestic girlfriend. Like,
oh boy,
like, it's just, there's so many different.
Lady, don't skip ahead. That was my segue.
There's just so many different. There's an anime out there for everybody. And, you know, if you like action, there's something. If you like comedy, there's something. If you like sports, there's something. That's, you know, there's always a recommendation. It just depends on what you personally like.
Cool. So, pulling from the chat, who pulled from my mind, as I know you're a wrestling fan.
It's true.
And Asuka's your girl.
Oh my goodness, Asuka.
Where's the wrestling anime?
There are.
Is there some?
Oh man, is there a wrestling anime? I'm trying to think now. There's gotta be. I can't think of one. Mm-hmm. But there's no possibility in my mind that there's not a wrestling anime.
There's gotta be. I mean, New Japan's huge over there.
God,
and
yeah.
even WWE's huge over there. So
yeah, I mean, there's boxing. I know there's boxing animes.
Yeah.
There's got to be something. I just can't think of it off the top of my head.
All right. That was funny that you picked up on that. Like,
Yeah, Asuka's wonderful. She's definitely one of my favorite wrestlers out there.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out a time to get you back on and talk all about wrestling, because I did that last week with Kyle, and we're like, oh shit, it's been an hour. All right, next.
I think there's just something about Kyle that draws people to wrestling, because I was on his show several months ago, and where else did our conversation go to but wrestling? And it was wrestling for a good stretch. So
nice.
You just can't not talk about wrestling when Kyle's on.